Hey everyone, Barry at CTech-review. We got a fun one today. A lot of topics changing this week. Some big stuff happening with the Blue Oval guys. Some good, some bad. We've got some more information on the 2026 Ram 2500 Express. I want to talk about used car prices. The trend is all over the map. It just depends regionally where you're looking, the type of vehicle you're looking, and most importantly, what do you do with all this information? Let's do this. So our friends over at the Blue Oval making a big change. What's interesting about this is they're kind of following the exact same things that Stellantis did, bringing back SRT, Street Racing Team, or Street Racing Technology. Ford is following the same thing. Ford Performance is officially done, and it's being replaced by Ford Racing. You can go over to fordracing.com, check out this website. They're basically going to kind of get back to the roots is how I take this, more of racing on the weekends. But what I'm really wondering is, how does this come to the actual vehicles and the development? When I go back to the roots of SVT, back in the late 90s and early 2000s, this was a good time period where boosted V8s and some really cool stuff, the Cobra Mustangs, the Lightning, a lot of cool stuff was taking place. That was also the same generation of Ford that came out with the Raptor. So I keep thinking, what's going to happen with Raptor now? Ford Performance really kind of started taking place around the Gen 2 truck, 2017. And that was when you saw the 350R come out, the Mustang GT 350R. But they also went from the V8 Raptor to the EcoBoost Raptor. And that was, a lot of people were not happy about that. They brought back the V8 Raptor in the Raptor R for 2023. The problem was it's no longer affordable. You know, Raptor's always been expensive, but Raptor R is a whole nother level of expensive. You've got the Lobo truck coming out that I think some people are going to be pretty excited about. I have mixed feelings on it. I like some of the neatness to it, you know, a little more sporty. I think that's on the right grounds. But it's kind of based on a lower trim pickup truck. Interior, I kind of would have liked to have seen a little higher trim level. Plus, I would have liked to have seen a little bit more performance features, maybe some updated dampeners. And that's a good picture you can kind of see of the interior right there. But I'm curious to see what comes with, say, the ST line. This has been something where I think Ford Performance has kind of devalued the cool factor of Ford Performance. So it'll be interesting to see what comes. There is a big meeting, Jim Farley and from Ford CEO, as far as Mark Rushbrook of Ford and the Red Bull Racing Team. The one thing I think you guys want to keep your eye on is the T1 Plus racing vehicle in the Dakar Rally. There's some interesting stuff coming on here, and I think Ford's kind of keeping it tight to the chest as far as what this vehicle will be in the future. But I'm watching it because this thing could be pretty awesome. I'm wondering if we're going to see a four-wheel independent half-ton truck with some high-performance off-road capabilities here in the near future. But this is kind of new news. And also, I wanted to kind of mention this. Shout out to Stuart. I'll put a link down below. This is a guy I've known from a long time from the Raptor community, and it's really cool to see him on the face of fordracing.com. He's very much in the back scenes of Ford Performance, Ford Racing, and in the influencers for Ford. So shout out for Stu to be on that page. On to some Ram topics. So Ram 2500 for 2026. 2025 was a refresh year. 2026, not a lot of changes, but the changes they made are awesome. As an example, the Express model and the Warlock, I think, are going to be hugely successful. When you look at what the Express package was in the Ram 1500, it was basically a work truck snazzed up a little bit, which makes it look less like a work truck and gives you just the base level creature comforts better than a work truck, but keeping that price point down. I think this is a really good move by Ram to bringing this now in the 2500 segment. Doesn't look like a work truck. And then the Warlock, giving yourself a more budget-friendly Rebel. I think that's a really cool truck. And there's been a lot of great videos by Jason Samco, as well as some other channels talking about that truck. And I'm excited to see more on the Ram front of HDs. I just did a short here recently on my experience of ownership of owning our 2019 Ram 2500. The Ram 2500 is a unique animal compared to the Ford and the GM, especially for 2025. Its big pitfall has always been the transmission. It's not that it was terrible, especially when you start hearing about all the issues with the 10-speed transmission in the Ford and the General Motors, but the performance was not all that great. Now they beefed it up, put the ZF Powerline transmission behind the Ram, and I think that's going to be a really good move. But I also like that they're really focusing on, they're trying to get a lower price point. And this is what everybody's after right now. People are kind of annoyed by how expensive some of this stuff is. And I think this is a great thing. The other big thing is the 100,000 mile powertrain warranty. For those people looking for some trucks, I also like that you can get this massive fuel tank in the long bed truck. Awesome. That's huge for people like myself that are towing. This is one of the big features I've talked a lot about before. The fact that Ram is running a 5-link rear coil suspension with an auto leveling rear suspension in the Ram. It's best in class, in my opinion, for ride comfort, as well as not having the sag. I think it's phenomenal. And I'd like to see more brands do this. And the fact that they're the only ones running the 5-link rear suspension kind of puts them in a unique area. There are some pitfalls to it, but for ride comfort, for me, off-road capability, it's a phenomenal system. What is great about the 2026 trucks, 1500, 2500, 3500, is the 10-year, 100,000 mile powertrain limited warranty versus the original 60,000 mile 5-year warranty. For people that drive a lot, like myself, awesome feature. Downside is it is not transferable. So if you do plan on just keeping a vehicle a few years, it's not going to help you much in that regard. But I think this is a great thing they're adding. And I'm hearing more news that more companies are going to be going to this shortly. Next topic. This has been a big deal. Everyone's been watching what's going on with the EPA and CAFE standards and this and that. And it seems to be battles back and forth in the government and different agencies and different parties. But here's what I can tell you from what I'm hearing. What we know is the CAFE standards were dropped for 2026, where you don't have to worry about brands, say like Ram, making high performance trucks and cars where their CAFE standard is low, paying massive penalties to the US government. And I don't want to spend a whole lot of time on this topic, but I just want to show you guys this. When you look at the penalties here, it's massive. If you do the math on this, basically in 2024, NHTSA, NHTSA set penalties at $17 per vehicle for each 1/10 of a mile per gallon that a manufacturer's average fuel economy fell below the applicable standard. At this penalty level, if a manufacturer produces 100,000 vehicles that fell short of the standard by an average of 1 mile per gallon, the company would owe $17 million in penalties. That's a mile per gallon. Now, break that down on, say, like a Ram TRX. A Ram TRX had thousands of dollars in penalties per truck sold, unless they could offset by producing a vehicle that gets, say, 60, 70 miles per gallon to take that average of 10 and 70, put it together, and you hit your overall. Their only option is pay penalties or make a vehicle that's more fuel efficient. This is going to be a huge advantage for Ram moving forward because they no longer have to, pay hundreds of millions of dollars into these penalties, and they can give people V8s like they want again. What will be interesting is with these CAFE standards going away and the shift, how important is fuel economy to people? I'd be real curious. Leave your guys' comments down below. When you're buying a $50, $60, $70, $80,000 vehicle, if you could save a few $1,000s a year in fuel, is that important to you, or do you not really care? I'm curious. If I could save a few $100s a month in fuel savings, that's a lot of money to me. Over at cargurus.com, they've got a really cool tracking tool that I use talking about used car pricing trends up 0.5% this month. And you can go across the brands and you can kind of see what's going up, what's going down. But this is the chart that I like to show that shows you something. If we look at January 1st of this year to where we're at September 4th, that's a pretty good jump. If you look at that, it's about a 3.2% increase from the beginning of the year to right now. If you go from March to now, that's a 3% jump in just a few months. But what about, are you guys seeing a little volatility here? Look from June to today and you see these big dips and raises. This is interesting to me. And what I find even more interesting are these highs and then a dip and then highs and lows. regardless, the trend is going up. Used car prices are going up. And I'm seeing this at every car dealership I'm going by right now. And there's another YouTube channel I watch. I think it's Real Deal Cars or something like that. This guy basically has got no inventory to sell in his dealership lot because he took the approach that he wanted to thin out inventory because he thought there's going to be an influx of lots of vehicles available. We'll come to find out prices are going up. He's got no inventory. Without inventory, you can't make money with the dealership. That's a tough spot to be. I'm seeing the exact same thing at dealerships by me because new car prices are going up. So more people are looking at buying used, especially with interest rates the way they are. And now we're seeing used car inventory drying up. It's almost feeling like we're heading in, I'm not going to call it to a COVID era pricing in the market, but we're seeing some interesting things happen. And I'm going to keep my eyes on this to see what happens moving forward in the used car market. Back onto the topic of SRT. When I go over to Dodge.com, I don't see a page right here for the Ram TRX or RHO. Obviously, the Ram is not a Dodge product anymore. A lot of people don't realize that, but that is actually the truth. But it's not on here. And in the past, the TRX was on this. So I'm curious if we're going to see the TRX coming back and the RHO, and this will be under the new SRT brand. So I'm really excited for this launch to take place because there's a lot of people excited about the TRX coming back and maybe some surprises Ram might have for us on the new TRX. With some updates with the interior and technology. And the other thing I was talking to Rocky over at Rocky Road about is one of the things we like about the RHO more than the TRX is the driving mannerisms. And part of that driving mannerisms is the electric power steering in the RHO makes it feel a lot more nimble than a traditional rack and pinion steering. I'm going to be curious if this new TRX, when it comes out, is it going to get the electric power steering or the traditional rack and pinion? Because that's a big difference in making the truck feel more nimble on the road. Another thing is the new Toyota subcompact truck, which a lot of people are excited about. Something to go head to head with the Maverick, with the Hyundai Santa Cruz. This is a market where a lot of people that say you're in the construction industry and you need to send contractors or salespeople out to job sites, but you don't need them running around in a big $65,000 full-size truck that gets 20 miles per gallon. You can put them in a little subcompact truck for $30,000 and 40 miles per gallon. You see a ton of these on the road. People like them for what they are. They're not made to tow 8,000-pound trailers. They're made to do tiny truck stuff, and they do that very well. It's been a lot of topics, a lot of talk on this topic recently. Motor One has got a good article on this, but what do we know? Well, is this what it's going to look like? You can kind of see a little 4Runner, Tacoma front end. This is not a bad look. I'll be curious. I mean, it doesn't have the traditional truck look per se of say like a Maverick, but if this thing's coming in at, I'm hearing like $31,000, that's going to be a good competitor. And what's going to be interesting is this will compete really good, obviously, in the Maverick price point. But what does this do with Ford's new strategy on bringing an affordable EV truck at $30,000 to the market? Now with the EV tax credit to $7,500 going away in 2026, I don't know if that small truck thing that's electric popular is say something like this or the Maverick. I've been saying all along, what America wants are more affordable transportation. Make this Stout, if that's going to be the name, or make the Maverick $25,000, like when the Maverick was originally released. They're going to sell millions of them if that's the case, because it's a high value vehicle that offers a lot of capability. Anyhow, guys, I hope you enjoy this week's industry updates. Hey, if you enjoy the video, feel free to give me a thumbs up. It really helps me out. Thanks for watching.